I'm Julie Nelson. Welcome to KARE 11 Extras. These are the stories that take a little extra time to tell, to research, to find. And we're dedicating this episode to one of the oldest cold cases in the country to be solved while the suspect is still living. It involves an 84-year-old Minnesota man now in jail in Menominee, Wisconsin for a 50-year-old cold case murder. Mary Schleiss from Minneapolis was stabbed to death and dumped in a snowbank while trying to hitchhike to Chicago for an art show. The suspect, John Keith Miller, has not stood trial yet, but he has admitted his crime in a jailhouse interview with our Lou Raguse.
When some people hear you say that, they're probably going to think that you are cold-blooded.
Stunning admissions.
I picked this girl up. I asked for sex, and she said no. And I stabbed her and put her in a snowbank.
From the 84-year-old man in jail awaiting trial for the 1974 murder of Mary Schleiss.
Maybe I have no feelings. I have no idea.
Mary was a 25-year-old U of M honors graduate living in Minneapolis. She was hitchhiking to Chicago for an art show on a February morning half a century ago. Then, like a scene from a horror movie, police say she was picked up by a driver with evil intentions.
You know, in 1974, it wasn't that unusual for somebody to hitchhike their way from Minneapolis to Chicago. But it's stories like this is the reason we don't let our kids do it anymore.
Shortly after being picked up, Mary was stabbed to death and dumped on a dead-end road off I-94 near Menominee. Also left behind, the killer's stocking cap.
I didn't know I left it there until I saw the pictures.
And when you saw the pictures, did you recognize that it was your hat?
Yep, yes I did.
But this man, 84-year-old John Keith Miller, who spent his whole life one state over in Minnesota, wasn't even on detectives' radar. His DNA was not in their database, so they couldn't match him to the hat until a genetic genealogy team from Ramapo College in New Jersey in 2023 volunteered to help them trace the killer's DNA through family trees with online ancestry sites. Investigators say it's one of the oldest cold cases in the country to ever be solved while the suspect is still living. Miller responded to a letter from KARE 11 News asking questions about the crime. And over the course of 2 interviews, he shared what he could remember.
Some car pulled up behind me, and I thought I was caught. The next day in the newspaper, the guy described my car, but it wasn't my car. And I figured I got away with it.
An eyewitness in 1974 who saw the killer dumping Mary's body in the snowbank gave an accurate description of Miller with reddish long hair and a bushy mustache. But Miller says he was driving a blue 1972 Gremlin like this one. And the eyewitness mistakenly told police the car was orange or gold, giving Miller confidence he'd never be caught.
I just figured I stabbed her and put her in the snowbank, and that was it. And that I got away with it.
Did you ever tell anyone what you did or talk about it at any time?
No.
How often did the crime pop back into your head? How often did you think about it over the last 50 years?
Hardly ever.
And why do you think that is?
Maybe I'm cold. I think I am cold-blooded.
Miller claims he never did anything similar before or after the murder of Mary Schleiss, although as a younger man, he spent time in prison for armed robbery. He said he doesn't remember what he did with Mary's fur coat or purse, but he recalls some of the cover-up.
Did you get rid of the weapon or did you hold on to that knife afterwards?
I threw it away.
Where did you throw it away?
Well, near where I used to live, it's like a little swamp area. I threw it into the water.
By Pine City?
Yeah, I could probably show them where it's at.
Although his case is pending, Miller says there will not be a trial.
I'm going to plead guilty because I know I am. Why go through all the mess? Put me away for the rest of my life.
Despite claiming he feels remorse, Miller doesn't expect to apologize for what he did.
Do you feel bad for Mary Schleiss?
Yeah, I do.
Do you feel bad for her family?
Yes, I do.
But you don't think it'd be worth saying anything to them?
I don't think I could say anything that would make a difference. I could say I'm sorry, but sorry's too late.
In just a few minutes, Lou will be joining us to talk more about this case as we listen in on his extended interviews with the suspect. Lou Raguse joins us now as we're exploring what appears to be one of the oldest cold cases in the country to be solved while the suspect is still living. And Lou, it sure appears like you solved it in that interview. Were you stunned when he admitted it?
I was stunned, and now to be clear, he did make admissions to police when he was arrested that we knew about from the criminal complaint, but we didn't know, as many details as he gave during this. So absolutely, it was stunning when he made those admissions.
You've been covering court cases and crime for a very long time. Have you ever had an interview like that?
This one was definitely different. I have written letters to people who have committed crimes or accused of crimes, and that's what I did in this case. I wrote this letter, and I don't do it for every case because a lot of times it can be just very self-serving for the person in jail, and we, as far as news content, don't really get anything out of it. But in this case, there are so many questions because of his age. First of all, 84 years old. Who knows if he's going to live until his trial, first of all. And then second, the amount of time between when the crime happened and when he was arrested, 50 years.
It's unbelievable.
What are the odds that he hasn't done anything else like this? So those were the basis of my questions. I wrote to him and I asked if he had ever done anything similar before or after this incident. I asked what it was like for him to carry this with him for 50 years. I asked, what he did for a living and how the incident affected his work and family life, and whether he followed the news coverage over the years, kind of to get a sense of how he got away with it.
So let's listen in because you had an extended conversation over the course of 2 interviews. Here's some of that.
Did the murder happen in the car or outside the car?
I think it happened in the car.
And what was the weapon that you used?
I guess I had a fillet knife.
And how were you able to access that? Was it in your car?
Yeah, I did a lot of fishing, and it was always in my visor.
Right above your seat?
No, about the passenger seat.
Did you get rid of the weapon or did you hold on to that knife afterwards?
I threw it away.
Where did you throw it away?
Well, near where I used to live, it's like a little swamp area. I threw it into the water.
By Pine City?
Yeah. I could probably show them where it's at, but I'd have to remember how to get in and out of the place. I never thought anything would be traced back to me. It was just the way I was thinking.
And you don't remember anything that Mary Schleiss said or did?
No.
You were wearing a hat at the time, a stocking cap, that got left behind at the scene?
Yep.
Did you know at the time that you had left it there?
I didn't know I left it there until I saw the pictures.
And when you saw the pictures, did you recognize that it was your hat?
Yep. Yes, I did. It was a black stocking cap with multicolored stuff on it.
The victim was wearing a fur coat and a purse. They were never able to find those. Do you remember what you did with them?
I don't remember any of that stuff.
Had you ever picked up hitchhikers before?
No. No.
Did you ever pick up a hitchhiker after that?
No. No. I don't know. I was going somewhere. To this day, I cannot remember why I was in that area. I don't know. But I used to just get in the car and drive around all the time, go places. Oh, I remember she was hitchhiking and I picked her up. I don't remember if I was on a main road, a gravel road, or whatever. See, what I thought I did, I picked this girl up, I asked for sex, and she said no. And I stabbed her and put her in a snowbank. And while I was doing that, some car blew up behind me. And I thought I was caught. The next day in the newspaper, the guy described my car, but it wasn't my car. And I figured I got away with it.
You only ever remember reading about it in the newspaper the next day, or did you read or see any news segments after that?
No, just the next day in the paper.
They described the car as a late model orange or gold compact car.
No. No. I was driving a 72 blue Gremlin.
Okay, and so that eyewitness just somehow got the description wrong, huh?
It had to be.
The eyewitness actually gave a description of you, saying that you had medium long auburn hair and a thick mustache. Would that have been true in 1974?
Yeah.
And you had red hair or auburn hair?
Oh, it's dirty blonde, yeah.
And were you about 6 foot tall, 180 pounds or so?
Yep, that's right.
Did you ever go back to that part of Wisconsin after this crime?
No,
Was that intentional?
I have no idea. It's out of my mind.
How often did the crime pop back into your head? How often did you think about it over the last 50 years?
Hardly ever.
And why do you think that is?
Maybe I'm cold. I think I am cold-blooded. Maybe I have no feelings. I have no idea.
Do you think that there are other people like you out there who've done something like this and just forgot about it after they did it? Never thought about it again?
I imagine there are people like that, yep.
Did you ever tell anyone what you did or talk about it at any time?
No,
Committing this murder, did it affect your life in any way over the last 50 years after it happened?
no, no.
When some people hear you say that, they're probably going to think that you are cold-blooded.
Yeah, I imagine I am.
Do you feel bad for Mary Schleiss?
Yeah, I do.
Do you feel bad for her family?
Yes, I do.
But you don't think it'd be worth saying anything to them?
No, I don't think anybody wants to go through any of that feelings or anything like that again. Well, I don't know what I could say, because it's already done. I think everybody they should just forget about it. Boy, I know they can't, neither can I, but I don't know what else to say. I don't think I could say anything that would make a difference. I could say I'm sorry, but sorry, it's too late.
Have you ever done anything like this before or after this murder?
Never, never. I didn't believe that I did what I did until they showed me the pictures, and then I saw what I actually did, and I was overwhelmed that I could do something like that. Well, I figured I didn't do all that how do you say it, maniacal stuff. I just figured I stabbed her and put her in the snowbank, and that was it. And that I got away with it. And then I saw all these films and pictures of what actually that I did, and I couldn't believe that I did something like that.
You use the phrase maniacal stuff. Can you describe what that means, the maniacal stuff?
I must have been crazy, mad, nuts. I don't know. Somebody would do something like that. It must have been, what'd you say, maniacal.
Could you describe a little bit more how you would have it in you to be able to do something like this?
I don't know. I have no idea. I still can't believe that I did something like that until they showed me the pictures. It's totally out of my mind.
Just describe what happened when those officers came and knocked on your door.
I knew it was over. Oh, a relief.
As far as your court case goes, do you plan on going to trial or do you plan on pleading guilty?
Guilty.
And why is that?
Because I am. Why go through all the rigmarole? I'm going to plead guilty because I know I am. Why go through all the mess? Put me away for the rest of my life.
All right. Well, Mr. Miller, that's all I need.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll probably see you at the court hearing.
All right.
It is really stunning, that whole conversation. And the first time I saw it, I was a little distracted by the paper in his hand.
Right.
Maybe because he's so nonplussed, it almost looks like he's reading what he did off a paper.
Yeah.
But that's not what that paper
No,
was.
the paper, he said right when I started, he said, I have your letter right here in front of me. So, as we talked, he kind of was looking down at my letter and referring to it as he spoke to me.
He sure seemed like nothing was off limits, but he also just had no emotion, and then conflicting statements about his emotion where he said, I didn't even think about it. And then there were times he said he did feel sorry for the family. What did you make of his emotional state in that interview?
I think it's clear that he's not emotionally bothered by what he did.
Right? It didn't
And so,
seem like it.
I'm not a psychologist, but people at home can make their own determinations about that. He clearly did not, he said he had remorse, but he didn't show remorse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he seemed like he was telling a story about going to the grocery store.
Exactly.
So when you talk to him about various details, he was forthcoming on a lot, but still claims he doesn't know what happened to the coat, for example. Do you believe that?
He started out by saying that he didn't remember anything other than that he had picked this girl up,
Right.
he had murdered her, he had left her in the snowbank. But then as I continued to ask kind of the same questions over again, and I told him, I'm like, look, for TV interviews, we need to re-ask the same question multiple ways to get different options of what to use. He would add another detail. And it's like, oh, well, he didn't remember that the first time. I asked about the murder weapon. He goes, well, I used a fillet knife. And I said, okay, where'd you keep that? He said, in the visor. I fished all the time, and so I kept it in the visor. I'm like, in the visor above your seat? And I had already known that it was in the passenger seat, so I was kind of testing him a little bit. He's like, no, it was in the passenger seat, and I took it and I stabbed her. And so all of a sudden, then he remembered disposing it. And at that time, he was living near Pine City, Minnesota, and he remembered throwing it into a swamp near there. And so, as the interviews went on, he did remember more details, and I do think there's a little bit of convenient bad memory with some of it.
So why do you think he agreed to talk to you? I mean, he is 84 years old, but he's waited this long to talk.
Well, I think part of it might be that he's not emotional about what he did, so he doesn't really care that he shares it. He figures he's caught at this point. He said that he feels like he's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. So from his standpoint, why not?
Something to do,
And I
right?
happened to ask.
Yeah.
And he's an old guy. He said his family, he has 2 daughters, I believe, that don't come around, is how he put it. He has a sister he hasn't seen in a long time. I'm probably the only person beside his lawyer who's reached out to him. So I could see this lonely guy who did this horrible thing and doesn't care about talking about it will respond to somebody who asks.
So it was pretty stunning in that piece to learn that he saw news footage and they said the color of the car, and he thought, I got away with it.
Right. And again, this is us taking his word for it. But
Right.
assuming that he's telling the truth on that, it's unfortunate. And I've done a lot of research on like human memory and testimony and stuff like that. And color is one of the things that people misremember the most.
Really?
Yeah, like lots of times you'll see police put out the description of a car. They'll say a gold or silver colored car. And it's like, well, gold and silver aren't close to being the same, but people cross those wires when they describe things. And so I knew, like, it kind of hit a chord with me because I know that people misremember color almost more than anything else. And
That's
so it's
fascinating.
unfortunate that they got such a good look at his face as he was disposing of the body in the snowbank. And they got all these other details right, but yet the color of the car. And I looked through every single newspaper article that was written between 1974 and today, and it so much revolved around the color of the car, like asking the public for help finding this orange
Right, and
or
orange
yellow
is such
or
a
gold
distinct
car.
color that
Right.
it could have really thrown people off. Do you believe that he committed this atrocious crime and then didn't commit any more similar crime for the rest of his life until he was
I have a hard time believing that he didn't do something similarly deviant. I mean, I don't want to say, oh, I think he killed somebody else. I have no way of knowing that. But so he has an extensive criminal history for pretty minor things like forgery. Armed robbery is not minor, that's a
Right.
serious crime, but it's not the same as like a kidnapping / murder or attempted sexual assault, for example. So he has all these crimes, but nothing officially of
That we
this
know of.
in this realm. But there are hitchhikers who were killed during this time period. Mary Schleiss was not the only one. And coincidentally, I found another case in Minneapolis and another case in Wisconsin where a hitchhiker was murdered by somebody who was driving an orange car or gold car, which again, that's the incorrect description. But you read those things and
realize it could be the
one,
same.
One police detective told me it's like you have to remember how many people were hitchhiking back then
Yeah.
and how many people with bad intentions were picking up hitchhikers. So you can't just pin all these things on him.
Right.
But it's hard to say.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I think we all watch these stories and we want some vindication for the family, and
Yeah.
man, they sure did not get it.
No, I mean, I talked with Mary Schleiss's brother, who spent all sorts of time over the years doing interviews. He didn't want to do an interview in the fall when he was arrested or even for this. And I said, I'm not going to ask you to. But Don told me that, at this point in his life, he just wants it to be done. And I told Don, I don't know if you'll like this story.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't apologize.
Doesn't seem
he
to feel
He
anything.
doesn't give, more answers than what they might have already assumed.
Yeah. All right. Great reporting. Thanks so much, Lou. And you can always catch up on the latest KARE 11 extras on the KARE 11 Plus app for your TV. Go to the news menu at the top, then scroll down to extras. Thanks for watching.